have been searching for an Overwatch replacement for an embarrassingly long time. It was a game that consumed so much of my life for so long that made so many terrible decisions for the long-term health of the game that I had no choice but to quit. But the thing with that is, nothing else quite scratches that same Overwatch itch. There are games with similar content models and games with similar gameplay, but none of them manage to deliver on the same consistent updates, overarching world intrigue, and strategic gameplay all in one package that Overwatch had to offer. Which is why I was so excited when they announced Marvel Rivals, an Overwatch-style shooter set in the wonderful multiverse of Marvel Comics. A set of words that when put together send my nerd brain into absolute overdrive. Needless to say, I was super excited. And if that wasn't enough, the team over at NetEase was kind enough to give me early access to the game in the first closed alpha. So is this game the Overwatch killer I've been yearning for? Let's talk about it. Marvel Rivals is a PvP 6v6 team-based hero shooter where the heroes are the various superheroes and supervillains that you have come to love from Marvel. We got all the iconic Marvel legends here: Spider-Man, Iron Man, Storm, Rocket Raccoon, and Luna Snow. A character who I have to assume was added because she's a developer favorite. And all of them bring translated versions of their classic abilities into what is otherwise some fairly standard shooter game modes split across 3 maps in the current alpha. But let's be honest, no one cares about the maps. The heroes are the selling point here, and the heroes are fantastic. If you couldn't tell by now, I'm a Marvel fan, and seeing how they translated these Marvel legends into a third-person shooter is undeniably charming. Every character falls into one of 3 categories. We have the Vanguards, the Duelists, and the Strategists. Vanguards serve as the anchor of the team, with large health pools and abilities that provide cover for teammates, oftentimes at the cost of raw DPS. Duelists are the exact opposite, more mobile, more damaging, but fairly squishy. And strategists are basically just the team healers. And while this may sound kind of familiar so far, Marvel Rivals differentiates itself from other shooters in a few key areas. Firstly, and most notably in the advertising, team-up abilities. Certain characters, when being played on the same team at the same time, get special power-ups that change the hero's kits. Some of these combos make perfect sense, like Rocket Raccoon can ride Groot and receive less damage. But some of these combos are really confusing, like Luna Snow buffs up Namor, which is a pairing that I'm not sure has any basis in wider Marvel lore. Either way, this team-up mechanic is super cool. It provides extra variety in every match and definitely strikes at the core of the superhero theming, even if I find it kind of superfluous. Like, only half of the roster has team-ups that can happen in the first place, and some of the ones that are available don't feel like they provide an amazingly noteworthy buff. Combine that with the fact that I was unlucky and most of my teammates didn't really care to try and want to combo at all, and this mechanic didn't see that much casual play from me. I'm sure it'll get more fleshed out as time goes on, with more characters being added, and as competitive picks up, these slight advantages might be more worthwhile, but as of right now, The other, and in my opinion, far more interesting gimmick that Marvel Rivals has on display is destructible environments, which is exactly how it sounds. There's not much to say about the destructible environments other than the fact that they're here, but I find this super fun. Superheroes are strong, yeah sure, let them destroy the cover I was standing behind. It creates a dynamic energy to every encounter. The panicked feeling that comes from standing on high ground, taking pot shots at the enemy team, only for the high ground to come crumbling down, leaving you face to face with those enemies, is a feeling that I find so much fun. Translating these classic Marvel heroes into a format where naturally they can't be all powerful is a task that I don't envy. But I would argue that they nailed the feel of everyone. For example, Spider-Man, the poster child of Marvel. He is known for being super smart, super strong, super agile, and using his webs to stop bad guys. And looking at his kit in Marvel Rivals, he has a way to track the enemies to keep the team informed, a move that pushes around enemies to showcase his strength, arguably the best mobility in the game, and his ultimate ability is using his webs to stop the enemies. His kit hits on everything we know Spider-Man to do, and every character in Marvel Rivals Rivals has a moveset as well thought out as this one. The structure of Marvel Rivals is delightful. I have nothing but praise for the core gameplay. And helping that matter is the fact that it also just all looks so good. Marvel Rivals is just oozing with style. The entire thing is a wonderful cel-shaded 3D 2D animation hybrid that just screams comic books come to life. A lot of auxiliary Marvel media made in the modern age comes with the baggage of trying to share the same visual language as the MCU, which usually means realistic, clunky, high-tech designs. And it's really nice that this game seems to be deliberately avoiding that pitfall. Every character feels specifically adapted to this art style and world. There's even complex lore write-ups on everyone in the roster. And while at this point in the game's lifespan, these are essentially Snapple Cap facts, the love is there. It's so refreshing after years of playing games like Avengers or Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite to look at a Marvel Games roster and see that most of the characters there are people you know aren't in the MCU. And not only that, they boast really unique designs. Spider-Man has never had a suit that looks like this. Magneto, I don't know why they went full sexy grandpa with him, but sure. Punisher, the face makeup of his logo? Perfection. All of the characters feel designed to be their coolest possible incarnations while also not borrowing too heavily from what came before. And I love that. And if you do prefer the classic outfits, you just know that this game will be a breeding ground for alternate skins inspired by the comics and movies. It's bound to happen. The few comic outfits that are currently in the game look fantastic. And hey look, they even credit the comic artists who came up with the original. They never do that in these. Back in the day, people said that Overwatch was like if Pixar made a video game. And if that's the case, then this feels like if the Spider-Verse guys made a game. There's such a clear direction with the look and feel of this game that makes every frame feel comic booky in the best way possible. It also makes the game borderline unreadable at times, but that's a trade-off I'm willing to accept. And speaking of Overwatch, it's high time we talked about the elephant in the room. Because Marvel Rivals borrows a lot from Overwatch in a way that feels like a little more than just inspiration. From the outset, the Overwatch influence in Marvel Rivals is undeniable. As someone who was in the peak of Overwatch hype back in the day, it feels like this game was specifically built to attract fallen fans like me. The main game modes are the same, the base classes of attack, tank, and healer, although renamed, are shared between the two, and things as specific as map design and even stuff like the music tracks feel eerily similar to that of the 2016 shooter. And this extends to the roster as well, with certain characters feeling like Marvel reskins of beloved Overwatch heroes. Hulk and Bruce Banner is Diva, Star-Lord is Tracer, Rocket Raccoon is Orisa, and Mantis is what I imagine Kiriko plays like. And even the characters who aren't one-to-one copies of Overwatch heroes have abilities that make you go, oh yeah, I remember that. I'm of two minds on this. On one hand, I liked Overwatch a lot, and as I said in the opening, I am happy to get a game that hits on those same notes. But on the other hand, when so much is so similar, and my favorite parts of the game are the things that are distinctly different, it kind of makes me wish the whole thing was just a little more original. I'm not saying like it's plagiarized or anything, but you can definitely feel the Overwatch influence in a lot of the playable cast. And I find that kinda weird. Whether or not you find this to be an issue worth discussing is completely up to you. It didn't ruin my time with the game or anything, but it did kind of put a sour taste in my mouth going in. Marvel games have been in a weird spot lately. Spider-Man 2 disappointed, Marvel's Avengers shut down, Guardians of the Galaxy failed to find an audience, and the only successes seem to spawn in the mobile space. But Marvel Rivals has a promising future, at least as of right now. I'm not gonna rule out the chance that this game becomes downright predatory by the time it launches. There's some kinks to iron out, sure, there's some odd performance issues, some movement abilities that feel a little unwieldy, and keeping ultimate charge between rounds is a balanced choice that I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of, but these can be figured out with time. Ultimately, in its current alpha state, Marvel Rivals is something to keep an eye on. It plays nice, it looks nice, it occupies a unique space in the Marvel games lexicon, and it fills the void that games like Overwatch and Avengers left me with. And by being a free-to-play game that features the Marvel IP, it naturally promotes a healthy future for the live service aspects of the game, with stuff like speculation for new characters, cosmetics inspired by popular comic costumes, and promotional tie-in events. Like, I know us Marvel folk are sick of everything tying back to the MCU, but when they inevitably release Deadpool or Wolverine as a character for this game when their movie comes out, it'll get people playing. And as someone who likes what they've seen of this game, I'm okay with that. Marvel Rivals is worth checking out. I, for one, can't wait for the next test they end up doing. Although, I do have one piece of feedback, and that is, we need Miss Marvel in the game. You know, like big hands, big punches. Make her control like a character from Nintendo's ARMS. You know, you see the vision? See ya!